All right, being the political leader in your precinct. The precinct chairman are the Republican Party's representatives in their respective precincts. You need to really greet your neighbors, maintain relationships with current neighbors. You know, a lot of this is Texas is a friendly state, and so we kind of don't have a problem with this. But you know, it's kind of that's the gist of it. You know, talk to your neighbors when you're at the grocery store. You know, say hi, be friendly. When you have new people move in, you know, take them cookies or sugar or whatever whatever people do. You know, be a good neighbor. It's kind of the simplest way to put it. Keep neighbors appraised of important political updates. When things happen, you know, be available. Be on the phone talking to people. I'm not saying every time a political issue comes up you should call somebody, but you know, you should strategically, you know, every time something major happens on CNN, you know, or you might call one neighbor. And then the next time something major comes up, call somebody else that you haven't called, you know, in the last 6 months. And then next time call somebody else. And that way you're always calling somebody, and they don't get, you know, they're not being bugged. You're not touching them every day. But you know, you're kind of keeping in a little bit of contact with them. They're you know, so they still know that you're the political leader in their precinct. Be ready to answer frequently asked questions, including your opinion on issues and candidates. That's very, very important. I don't suggest that people endorse candidates in the Republican Party of Texas, but I think there are some times when one of the candidates is a true conservative and the other one isn't. And I think that it's the precinct chairman's job or the county chairman's job to you know, to make those decisions. And you know, as state party by law cannot do that. And so somebody has to hold the hold candidates responsible, since it can't be the Republican Party of Texas. The county party and local campaigns will depend on you for your best information on voters in your precinct. Be available to provide helpful information and assist on projects and help recruit volunteers. That goes back to what I was saying about knowing everybody in your precinct. You know, keep a database, even if it's not online. Just keep a handwritten one. You know, if the county chairman calls up and we've got a great lady that's running for county commissioner and she's in a close race, you know, we ought to know who are the women that are Republicans, who are the women that have what women have children, things like that. So make sure that you know exactly who you're talking to. I'll tell you a quick story. I worked on a campaign, one of my very first campaigns, when we would go out block walking and we would, keep track of everybody. Oh, they're Republican, but we never really kept any detailed information. And we would send notes back. We would write notes, handwritten notes before we walked them, and then we would write thank you notes when we wrote back. And we had 2 or 3 campaign volunteers, and one of them was a girl, and she was writing the notes. And she would write things on her notes like, oh, your dog was so cute, or, I just loved your frilly little sweater, and things like that. And, of course, we had a male candidate, and so, things didn't, everybody's like, well, why is Kevin Christian writing this stuff on, to me in a thank you note? But really, we should have known who's a woman, who's a man. That would have been a great way to do it. If we could have, every time we talked to a woman, if we'd have known and let, Missy write her a note, it would have been way more effective than us just kind of mass sending out these mailers. And that also goes back to being organized as well. Help conduct elections. Being an election judge. You're responsible for conducting elections at precincts and precinct polling locations. I've personally never been one. I know that it's a challenge. I know that it's something that I wish if I had the opportunity today, I would do it, and hopefully I know for sure I'll do it in the future. You can be an alternate election judge. You can be an election clerk. And you can be a poll watcher. For poll watchers, we're working, and I don't know if this is going to effectively work or if we're going to be able to get this done, but we're trying to build an iPhone app for the Republican Party of Texas. It will work with Voter Vault. But, if we can have iPhones at polling locations, and as people go in and vote, we can click them off on an iPhone, and they're never called or touched or emailed again from day one or in early voting, from the second that they early vote. If if a person comes in or says something at the polling location and, oh, I'm not sure about candidate such and such, the person standing there with an iPhone can click a button and send them a text message or a voicemail from the candidate that they're not for sure about, if it's somebody that if it's a Republican and we really want to support. There's a lot of technology out there. We just have to have people that are willing to use it. If we can have 1,000 iPhones, but if we don't have poll watchers at the polls, it really doesn't do us any good. And so just bear in mind, I know that that's a long time. It's a long 12-hour day from 7 to 7, but it's one of the most important jobs that you'll do for your county party. Representing your precinct on the county executive committee, as we talked about, that's made up of the county chairman and precinct chairman, and then any other officers, treasurer, things like that, secretary. What does the committee do? It serves as the primary local organization for the party. It provides primary election oversight, makes certain decisions about the conduct of conventions, fills vacancies on the executive committee, replaces nominees on the ballot if necessary. That's very, very important. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can be one of the most important things that a precinct chairman ever does. One of my first week, in fact, it was my very first week working at the Republican Party of Texas back in 2006, was the week that Tom DeLay resigned. And we actually had to go down to Harris County and have all the precinct chairmen meet together, and they voted and chose Sheila Sekula Gibbs to take Tom DeLay's place on the ballot. And so I know that it doesn't happen very often, but it can be one of the most important roles ever filled, and that's also why it's important that we have every spot filled in, for precinct chairman. I'm sorry, I lost my place. They may make special election nominations. I just covered that. Take other actions as desired, any votes, resolutions, things like that a county party will work on. How to break down your precinct. We want to obviously have the precinct chairman up front. Then we need to have neighborhood and block captains. Break it down as low as you can go. From your neighborhood and block captains, those need to be broken down into neighborhood captains and block captains, and then on to the voters. It's it's too much to ask a precinct chairman to talk to every person in his precinct. So try to break that down. Have an area leader, a block captain, things like that. Any way that you can break down your precinct is very, very beneficial. All right, maximizing the Republican vote in your precinct. We want to identify Republicans. How do we identify Republicans? Well, we want to we want to stereotype people. Is it a dad with a wife and and 2 kids? Yeah. So let's go talk to him and see if he's a Republican. Odds are he probably is at some point. And that goes along with, I'm going to kind of joint this into registering people to vote. Are any of you deputy voter registrars? John, go down to the elections administrator and in the county. You just have to fill out a form. I promise it won't take you more than 10 minutes. I'm sure maybe I'm one in Taylor County and in Travis County. In Taylor's County, it took me about 5 minutes. Travis County's, they made me sit through an hour training. I assume that this one is they'll just make you sign a form. You take an oath that you'll obey the law. But once you're a voter deputy registrar, it's key, because when you register a person to vote, if you're a deputy voter registrar, you can actually, once that person fills out their voter registration form, you can take that from them and turn it back in for them, as opposed to having to hand them the card and then hoping that they fill it out and mail it in and get registered to vote. And so, if you're working a voter registration table, you always want to be able to take those back. Make sure that you have to do this 30 days before an election, or they won't be registered until the next election. And then also, once you take a card back, you only have 7 days to get it back to the elections administrator. Identifying people to vote, like I said, be stereotypical. You can't host a Republican voter registration table. Well, you could, I guess, but you would have to accept anybody that came along. So if a Democrat came over, you have to accept their voter registration. We don't want to do that. We don't want to register Democrats. We strategically want to pick out who we're registering to vote. Go to your church on a Sunday morning. You can, a lot of churches say, oh, you can't do political stuff here. Well, you can register people to vote as long as you're not up there registering Republicans to vote. So go, set up a, table at church, and you're probably going to get 90% Republicans out of that.